Hello everyone, my name is Mark, I'm your driver, and today we are going to be reviewing this. This is a 2026 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy with the V6. So let's get into it. We've got the 3.5 liter Lambda 3 Smartstream engine instead of the previous 3.8 liter Lambda 2 V6. So it's still a V6 and it is a little bit down on power, 287 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, down from 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, but it's still a V6, it's still incredibly smooth, and it sounds way better than any rattly four-cylinder ever could. So let's take a walk around this thing because they've changed a lot. It's a lot more boxy, it's a lot more sort of old school Range Rover, and I really like that. At the back, the taillights still look really nice, but everything's not completely minimized, right? It's not necessarily a minimalist SUV in any way, shape, or form, but some of those more extravagant design elements, like, you know, the pinstriped LEDs inside of the taillights, those are now gone. And now, behind myself, in the third row, we've got tons of space back here, as in the original. So in the back seats here, you get captain's chairs in this configuration, and they do come with ratcheting armrests, so you can get it exactly where you want it for your maximum comfort. You've got some ambient lighting here that displays on this fabric backsplash here, which is soft touch, which is good to see. The top of the door here is that soft touch leather material. I like this, it's kind of two-tiered, so you have your armrest that tapers off to reveal your cubby space. You do get your scratchy plastics down at the bottom, but honestly, that's okay. Tons and tons of rear space. I can get my feet all the way underneath the chair in front, and it is in a pretty relaxed, pretty reclined position. And the passenger side rear seat passengers also get control over the front seats. So if they do want to have a limo-like experience, they can move the seat all the way forwards, recline it all the way, and they can completely stretch out in this seat, which is awesome. The headrests are incredibly soft. I hope it comes across on camera just how soft and squidgy these are. Type-C here, Type-C here, full 115 volt household style plug down here. And where the climate controls and power outlets used to be, you now get this nicely damped pull-out drawer cubby to, I guess, put things. So yeah, back seats of this thing are really quite nice, but there is one more feature I do want to show you because these are completely powered. So they can go forwards, they can go backwards, you can tilt and recline. Now this button down here, I believe, turns the seat into sort of like a recliner-esque position. So I'm just gonna hold it and see what happens. It brings the seat forwards and down and lifts this into kind of like a lounge style space. So let's see, we've got it in that mode there. And oh, that is quite nice, I have to admit. And getting into the third row of seats, I'm gonna push this button to bring the seat back, and there we go. The seat is in its position. I surprisingly still have legroom. If I sit up all the way straight, I have tons of legroom. Headroom gets a little bit tight, but it does scoop out nicely. So if I slouch down, I still have enough space for my feet under the seat in front, and I have enough knee room to survive back here. And I mean, with heated seats, a power outlet, speakers, and 2 cup holders, I'm not wanting for much back here, truly. This is a really comfortable third row, especially for the size of the vehicle. So yeah, let's hop back out and finally check out the front seats and do the durometer and see how soft everything really is. All right, getting into the front seats of the Palisade, you can see here that there is a very steep rake to the seat base, and it turns this into a really comfortable bucket style situation up front. So hopping in, we can see that this interior is really, really nice looking, but it is hard to judge how soft these materials are on camera. So we've got our durometer here. A higher score means harder material, so the lower, the better. Starting with the upper dash, we can see we're getting about an 80, that's pretty good. The upper door, about a 75. Middle door, find a flat spot there, about a 75. Armrest, about a 60. Center armrest, 40. That's very soft. And then up here, 85 to 87. And then just to confirm the durometer is working, this is hard plastic and it is reading in at over 100. So yes, The soft materials, about an 85. So it is more consistently nice across all the different levels of the interior. So the upper dash feels really nice and soft to the hands. It's got this very, very fine grain leather to it and just feels much more premium than the old one, even though the surface underneath might technically be harder. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but like the middle here, this leather material isn't as soft as the old one used to be in terms of padding, but it is a slightly higher grain leather feeling material. It's kind of just personal preference, but this is a very nice, very soft, and very honest interior. It really only gets scratchy when you get pretty far down, which again, you would expect at this price point, but the fact that they've made the rest of this just looks so good. So overall, I am really actually pretty happy with this interior. You've got faux wood, you've got ambient lighting that uses the surfaces behind the ambient lighting to reflect it so that it feels more like a living room and like a home than a nightclub. And I really, really like that design philosophy in this interior space. Now that I am on the road with the Palisade, the first thing I can tell you is just how quiet and smooth everything is. The original was never a loud car. It had acoustic glass on the front windows, but this, I mean, this is just next level. It's got acoustically treated windshield, acoustic front glass, and acoustic rear glass, which means it is just so quiet in here. It really is luxury car quiet in here. You can hardly hear that van that has no exhaust. Like, it is really tremendously serene in here, and the inputs are all very well calibrated. I apologize for the squeakiness of my wet boots on the pedals, but the inputs are well calibrated. The steering just feels the right amount of light. It doesn't feel crazy overboosted, but it also doesn't need to transmit anything that's happening from the road. I'm in a comfortable vehicle. I don't want to deal with it. And it's doing that very well, and even on these lowish profile tires, suspension's doing a great job at keeping those harsher, higher amplitude impacts out. This is just very smooth and very comfortable. And of course you do still get your blind spot cameras, which is helpful, and a digital rear view mirror that appears to be 60 or above frames a second, which is cool. And then you can just turn that back to your regular old-fashioned rear view mirror. Ooh, indicator stalks, nice and heavy, well-weighted, good bit of resistance. Throttle calibration is very leisurely off the line. You wouldn't want to upset anybody in your Hyundai Palisade. This is just more relaxed, more delayed, more effortless, if you will. But I'm gonna start to add throttle. Okay, it is giving us a downshift. I'm at about half throttle now. And yeah, only then is it really starting to give me power. But the V6 sounds good. So if we just dial us into sport mode, we get more aggressive shifts, more aggressive throttle mapping, slightly heavier steering. Now, it is somewhat unclear to me whether or not this has the adaptive road preview, adaptive suspension that the Korean cars get. I can't seem to feel a difference in the ride, so I'd be more inclined to go with that this is just the regular suspension tune. But let's see how it grabs gears. Downshifts are still leisurely. Not a lot of torque there. Upshifts feel snappier though, that's good. Let's see how it does with the corner. There is not a lot of torque in this 3.5. Handles the bump very well. Ooh, that actually handles surprisingly well. I thought it was just gonna start to push there, but it didn't. It just started to turn more. That was really impressive. I thought it was about to run out of traction and start to push and need to use the ABS system, but no, wow, okay. I'm surprised. You can definitely feel the weight a lot more than in the original. The original is like 1,900 kilograms. This is closer to 2,100 kilograms. So it is getting big, it's getting up there. So for it to have the same powertrain, same gearing, basically same drivetrain, just more weight, I think this is really impressive that it can still turn and handle the way it does. It wasn't all over the place. It felt composed, but heavy, but also surprisingly flat for how soft it is. God, I expected way worse. That's done a really, really good job. It's slightly less proficient overall, but feels a bit more satisfying and a bit less abusive to drive quickly. Let's do it one more time. Back down into sport mode so you guys can see there that the little LEDs on the steering wheel actually correspond with drive mode, which is pretty cool. So I think I'm just gonna leave it in automatic this time and just let the gearbox figure it out. Slow down a bit, give us like 75% throttle. Okay, that's getting up to like 80, 90. Backing off. Wow, it really corners better than you would expect it to. I keep expecting it to just start to immediately push, but it doesn't. It controls itself really, really well. And I mean, I say this and there's no steering feedback whatsoever, but even without it, it still holds on. So I'm still trying to figure out what the chassis is doing, but it feels like the chassis is much better sorted. So although you do feel the weight much more, it does feel like it's going to push a lot sooner. It doesn't, and that's a bit strange. So it handles surprisingly well. It upshifts a little bit quicker, more responsively. The downshifts are still leisurely, of course, but I'm surprised. It handles really well. While I'm puttering around here, let's just go into sand mode quickly. Yep, sand mode works exactly the same way, and we'll get the back to step out. Good stuff, good to see. But truly though, I do feel that this is much better suited in normal mode as a comfortable cruiser. This is a really hilly section of road, so you'll be able to see the downshifts to get us up the hill. It does require a fair few. But yeah, it is having to shuffle through the box quite a bit to give us the torque that we need. The handling is very pleasant. It's a bit disconnected with the wheel and everything, but it's very predictable like the original. It does exactly what you want it. It goes where you point it. The steering rack itself doesn't feel overly slowed or truckish. And it's just so smooth. The drivetrain refinement and calibration and touch points of this car are really, really good. And it's got so many more, I guess, luxury features than the original. I mean, the original Palisade was like one of the only cars in its price range for years that offered heated and ventilated first and second row seats. And so for this thing to come in and have powered 3 rows of seats, heated and cooled first and second row seats, heated third row with more USB ports than you can count, with physical controls and buttons that are easily laid out, with configurability in the infotainment, and all of these different features and functions. Like, you've got a massage seat, you've got adjustable bolstering on the sides, like, you've just got everything you need. And honestly, the infotainment is pretty gimmick free. It really only has to do with customizability and things like that. Your core vehicle controls are outside of the infotainment and available through button, which means you're not going to crash this thing. And if you do feel so inclined, the safety suite is going to make it very, very challenging to do so indeed. So to wrap things up with the 2026 Palisade, I really like this thing more than I thought I would. I was a bit skeptical about a few things, the powertrain being one of them. And I think that's the first thing as we get into these corners that I'm going to talk about. And that's just that The 3.8 in the old Palisade was lacking in terms of torque, as you could see there. It didn't feel fast. You really had to rev it out. This one definitely feels slower, and it feels like that third gear is just still too tall for the amount of torque that this engine can produce. So if it was turbocharged, it would rip its way through third gear, but if you are looking for something that's a little bit quicker, the hybrid would be the one to get. So if you're not terribly concerned about how outright fast this thing is, the V6 is the way to go. It is remarkably comfortable and smooth. You can barely tell that this thing is turned on when you're stopped at idle. It is that smooth. So it's just an incredibly smooth, quiet, refined sounding powertrain. It's just not fast. I like the use of materials. I like this faux wood. I like this, what feels like real wood. The leathers are soft. The steering wheel is very soft and squishy. You guys could see from the durometer, this is a very well put together interior. Nothing creaks, nothing rattles. This is a very well screwed together place to be. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much to Lucas at Finch Hyundai for making this video possible. And let me know what you guys think of the Palisade. Would you go for this? Would you go for the hybrid? Or would you just tough it out with a pre-facelift? So yeah, let me know.